Congressman, what is your reaction to the President's State of the Union address, and how do you feel about his proposed budget?
As usual, the President made a very excellent speech. I think the best part of the speech is that he doesn't contemplate any new taxes, and neither do I. I think that we've got to keep the pressure on reducing the waste in government, and I think any idea of tax increases will lessen the incentives to root out that waste. So I think that's the best aspect of it. The part that I think is unrealistic as it pertains to the budget is a call for 8% or an 8% increase in the military budget. I don't believe that is realistic. I think that the Pentagon has to be treated the same as any other government agency, and the Pentagon has to feel the same pressure as the other parts of the government so that it continues to look at the waste within its own agency.
Well, which programs would you say are your priorities?
My priorities would be education on the one hand and the environment on the other. I don't see these as expense items or line items on a budget. I see these as an investment in our future, perhaps the most important legacy we can leave our children. When I talk about education, I'm obviously referring to student loans. I think that the student loan program can be improved. I think we've got to collect more of the money back to make it work as a revolving fund the way it was first intended. But I don't see throwing the baby out with the bathwater. I think that we need to strengthen the program but make it work better.
Getting back to the defense budget, do you think the President's call for the 8% increase is in tune with Westchester's thinking?
No, I don't. I think that the citizens of Westchester would look at the priorities and say that we've got to deal with many of the problems facing the elderly, the poor, and the others not quite ready to help themselves before we can give an 8% increase to the Pentagon. I think that we've got to keep the pressure on the Pentagon to root out the waste. I believe in a strong defense, as do many of my constituents, but we don't believe in a spendthrift defense, and we've seen enough indications that there's still a lot of waste around.
Well, in the final analysis, do you believe Gramm-Rudman was a good idea?
Yes, I do. I think Gramm-Rudman is going to force Congress to set its priorities. I think it's the thing that we needed to get the attention of Congress. I did not see us doing our job last summer when we tried to reduce a $230 billion budget. All we could come up with was $50 billion down to 180. I now see that the Comptroller General has revised those figures back to over $200 billion. So we've got a long way to go, and we must balance our books. Rather than calling it Gramm-Rudman, I like to think of it as the Balanced Budget Act or the Deficit Reduction Act. And the reason we need to balance our books is most clear when you consider that by 1991, 41 cents of every dollar will be going to pay the interest on our national debt. And that is a terrible legacy to be leaving to our kids.